And now when I click the button in the bottom left corner, I get a new page, but I can't leave it as untitled. That doesn't make any sense. I need to be able to edit this. Arrgh. So today, welcome back. I'm Dr. Nick Williams, and you've joined me as we build this Ruby on Rails app to recreate the Notion app that we all love. Today, we're going to focus on inline editing. We want to be able to edit this without any crud. Just want to be able to type, wait patiently, and then we should see the URL update. We should see the title change over here, and we should be tickled with glee that this just works. So let's get started. I've done a few things since the end of episode 1. First, I wired up the new page button. I may have mentioned in the last video that I didn't need to be able to do a create. Well, that was amateur hour. I do need to be able to create. I just don't need a new page. So when I click this, it just creates a new page object with no title. Obviously, we still haven't got to the body. Entertaining me as I just leave this here until we get to it another day. And it adds it to the top level of my account. Other things, I've wired up the contents here. So this is the first name, and just like every other stupid app in the web, it just takes the first slice of your name and says, that's probably the name your mother gave you. Unfortunately, this is the name my university gave me, and so it's a bit disrespectful to my mother, who probably put more effort into it. So I'd want to be able to edit my name. So I've wired up settings and members to quickly go to the Jumpstart Pro pages that we're given. Typically, this is over here on this side of the nav. Go to Profile. So here, we'll just update. And now, look, we've tricked it into having a first name. So we've got that. We've got pages. I can now click on these pages, and we navigate to the different pages that we have. But what we need today is to be able to inline edit this. So what I want to do is we'll find out where this header is and look at ways we can change it. I've refactored a few things so this page is being basically readable. This is the top level show of the page, so everything's kind of in partials now. The nav bar is now specific to being a page. That's different from the Jumpstart Pro nav bar is not this nav bar. And we have the sidebar, and then inside the page itself, we have the header, which is where we're going to find our title over here. So there's our title. Currently, it's designed by the genius that did the design. That was me. I was the genius. If you can't talk yourself up, who are you going to do that to? So I designed it as an H1. We'll figure out how to edit it. But we need this to be editable. And what else have we got in show? Show, then there's comments, which is just static text at the moment. And then body, which is also very static. And of course, the body is the most exciting part. We're going to do text editor. We're going to do collaborative, how to two people typing at the same time, get their comments, none of which I'm going to write. Just let's get that clear. And it's really hard. I've watched a lot of videos about collaborative, the conflict resolution of people typing at the same thing. Super hard problem. And there's a solution that will be heavily borrowing based on what I've looked at so far. So a couple of episodes from now, we're going to look at the collaborative editing of that document. It's going to be very interesting. But today, we have editing this header. Thing I learned recently, if you want to edit something, normally you'd use a form and an input. But I learned that you can actually take any element. That might be overstating it. You can take this specific element anyway and go to Contenteditable. If we come back here, look at that. I can edit it. I would hate to think that that's job done, but that's pretty interesting, isn't it? You can just, any element you can make editable. Now, whether or not that ever gets saved and what happens to it is up to me. I mean, I'd like to give you some jobs to do, but for the moment, it's up to me. So that was interesting. Now, if we did want to do something that now we'd need to, let's just go, right? Okay, we're going to need some sort of JavaScript. Let's just start here. I have a different idea of where we're going to end up, but editable. Let's see why I think this might not be as joyful. I don't know. this is good. I am interested in ending up getting to using an input and forms because it feels more like straight down the line with Rails, but nonetheless, this is interesting. So here's how I think about what we're going to do. We're going to make this content editable so that the browser lets you edit it. And then we're going to have a controller which is going to watch for interesting events happening on this element, then send it off to the server. Now, I just decided to call this editable. I now need a controller. I don't know if there's generators or anything. I just know that I want one. So let's just borrow, just borrow one. So we want to call it editable controller.js. And then what do we want? We want this bit and that bit. I think connect the old hello from editable. And then we'll just print out the element that it's currently running on just to see that it's all wired up. Let's load this. Don't need you. Move me out of the way. Move me back. All right. So when this page refreshes, it prints out that the editable controller is now attached to my DOM and watches the page, but on connect, which is connect, the connect event is when the DOM is finished loading. We now want to track people touching and editing. Or we can call it changed. Let's call it changed. We'll say that there's some sort of method here that's log something changed. Let's not get too excited about what that is. Now the question is, how do I get to call this? So over here, in the wonderful world of Stimulus.js, we can sort of hook in DOM events and call my controller events. So I can go from the DOM, whatever the magical world of JavaScript events is, into my controller with, no, it's action. So I go action. So then I say, what is the action? What action is happening to this element that I care about? And there's a couple. They're like key down, key up, something like that. And I think key up, so like you press it down, you hold it, and then you let go of it. That's kind of the event I want, when it's let go. If I was using input, then I think I also have data action change, something like that. I think that's an event, but H1 I don't think has that. So whenever this element gets the key up event, then we want to send that event across to my editable controller. Oops. And what did we call it? We called it changed. Well, let's see what happens. I don't know. Hey, look at me with the magical JavaScript. Now, what I don't really want is an event for every time I press the button, because I'm going to send this off to the server. I don't really want every time you touch it to be sending it off to the server, updating the URL. I don't want that. So what I want is to not do that. Yeah, I think that was clear. I'm glad we're agreeing on what we want. We want it to not do that. Unfortunately, not do that is difficult to Google, and Google only works if you know what you're looking for. I think what this is called is debounce. And look, here it is, low dash debounce. Now you can write your own, at your own spare time, can write your own debounce method. I'm not writing my own debounce method. So debounce. There is this library called Lodash, and in it is debounce. That's cool. What's even cooler is not having to load all of Lodash. Firstly, we'll go yarn add Lodash. And I think there's like another package that's just that, which is rather than getting all of Lodash, which I don't currently want or need, I'll just get this mini package that has. And so now what I want is import debounce. No, that was wrong. I think that's more correct. Because to be fair, I never know. JavaScript is pretty much just keep guessing until it starts working. So now, how do I do this? So now I want my method to basically be a wrapper around debounced. Look at the dots. So you pass my function, and so this, how do I say it? So I'm kind of splitting this up. So like that's the name or the variable of my controller, and it's going to hold a function, and I want that to now actually hold a debounce function of some sort. And the function or the block closure that I want to run is inside here. So I kind of want that to be my function. I'll put that in there. And then some amount of time to wait. Oh, look at that, was cool. So there's my function. You know, it's no arguments and it returns nothing. And some sort of wait, which I don't know what the default is. But we'll say 500. What's the other argument? Options. Ooh, look at those. Leading, trailing, maybe. I don't know. Okay, let's see if that works. So now we've wrapped or said, I still want to receive an action called changed, but instead of every time running console log, we'll let the debounce figure out when to run console log. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Boom. Excellent. And then if I was to type more, then it happens again. I'm looking down here, by the way, in case you're looking somewhere else on my screen. So that's debounce. Super handy for not just being over trigger happy with events. You can sort of just say, when you've finished collecting events, then we'll do something. So now we would now send it off to the server using, you know, one of an infinite number of ways we can do this. Well, we have many ways. One of which is to we could do a fetch. So the browser has a fetch. We could sort of say, you know, pages, method, I think, patch, and then, you know, pass it through. I could do that. I could do that. That is perfectly valid way. But I'm pretty interested in looking at a different way. Pretty interested. And I'm not sure that this is how, or what I'm about to do is how it will stay, but I just don't have a reason to think that, you know, this seems a bit fancy. To do an AJAX call and then collect the data and, you know, response. When I'm thinking, what if I had a form and then I have an input and then I just submit the form? I mean, Rails does that. Rails knows how to collect form results and then, you know, do turbo stream responses, redirects, all that sort of stuff. So let's I'll tell you what, let's just design this thing for the moment. We'll come back to, I'm going to borrow all of this. Might not. So we've got class, oops. And then the value. Oh, okay. You know what? I remember now what I don't think is going to work for us. I'll come back. What I don't think is going to work is this problem, right? Here I am. It says untitled. And I click and I've got the actual starting of untitled. I don't want that. I want it to be blank. Like, I want this to be a placeholder that just looks like the word untitled. But if I click on it, I can start typing. And so one of the reasons I want to use an input, I think, is that I can use a placeholder. So for example, let's go placeholder equaled untitled. Look at that. Like, you get this, it's a first class browser concept of a placeholder. If I start typing, the placeholder goes away. So I want that. So I think I'm going to go with input for the moment. Otherwise, I think I have to make up placeholder concept in JavaScript, and that seems effort. Now, the other part is obviously I have a value, and the value is going to be the title. So if there is a title, great. Pop it in. Oops. Right, so there's no red. If I go to one of these other ones, blob, you can sort of see blob is there. If I go to home, home is there, my input, and over here it says untitled until I type it in. Next thing we want to do is design this. So let's go white background, I don't want that. Background gray 50. So that's the background of what's behind, and we can get rid of this outline. Focus, outline, none. Let's give that a red hot go. Yes, look at that. I could have done that here as well. I could have done that there as well. But so the main difference I'm looking for here is the placeholder. So now, and I don't need it to have it content editable because it's an input. That's what inputs do. They are content editable by default. But I do want all this again. So let's make this other one go away for the moment. There we go, key up. Now I mentioned something about change. Let's see if that actually, no, let's try changed. Oh, okie dokie, key up. So now we get key up. We get key up, something changed. Now what changed? What is the value of this thing now? Currently I've got the editable controller is on the input. So I can just go in. So it's the value, not the internals, value changed. And currently I've got this, I say currently, like I know what else is going to happen next, but let's be specific. Like I don't need to say a target because of this element. It's where the controller is mounted to. And what is it, value? Yes, look at us. Current value changed to this. That's impressive. And so now we need to submit the form. I mean, I don't actually need the value, I guess, really, unless I'm going to count characters or some other sort of feedback. What I want is the form. Apparently, it doesn't have a form. I thought elements had forms. Oh, I mean, it doesn't have a form because yours truly didn't actually put it inside a form. So, form with model page, I think, do, there's my form. Okay, there's the form. So now whenever the element changes, I can find the form and I can submit it, theoretically. Now, I learned a thing once. Turbo submit form. As long as it didn't do turbo tax or anything. Because this dot submit doesn't work. It's something else I've got to do. Yes, this one, request submit. I need that one. Apparently, when Turbo first came out, Turbo Drive, Turbo, whatever it is, it didn't do it at all. You couldn't programmatically submit form, but you can now, and that's good for us. So here's what I'm thinking. Do that anymore. We'll do that. Let's see what happens. Nothing good probably, because I haven't really set up anything. But let's just clear the logs so I can see. Ugh, I didn't see squat. What happened? Parameter missing. Well, okay, that's good. That's good. It posted as a turbo stream. That's probably important. So it sent it to my update method, which I haven't really touched. I didn't write it, but it needs a page thing. What does that mean? Page controller. So that request came into here, and I don't want any of that stuff. Go away. That was the JSON stuff. If I want to do an API, I'll do an API, but I don't need an API right now. So before the update method is run, it does run set page and authenticate user. Set page is here, finds it by slug, and then that's it. So it sets the page. And good. And then we attempt to update it with this page params, which is here. While we're in the business, when I did the create, I actually created a second one of these just for create, because really, I don't really need it. Currently, my current usage of create is I don't pass any arguments. I just go boom. But these would be the only arguments I might ever want to pass in for create, not body, probably, until I change my mind. All right, but this is the update params. And so it says require page. It doesn't say permit, it says require. I need to pass a page in. So let's stop using this one. Let's start using some Rails helpers. F.text field. Now I need all these other things. So we've got data, controller, action. That's my action. So that should flatten out to be what it was before. And then we want class, which is key. And now this stuff here is also keys. And here. Now I don't need, I can just do, oh, that was much more difficult than it should have been. And let's pop that there. So I think I've rewritten that to be a text field. And that has done one thing, which is to be ugly. Failed.query selector is not, can't see that because I'm in the way. I'm back. Is not a valid selector. What does that mean? Don't know what it means. I'll just have to stare at it for a bit. Text field. Oh, I haven't actually said what field because it didn't occur to me. But, you know, just that error did not tell me that. Oh, that worked. That just worked. We didn't do squat. I typed in, that just worked. And the title changed here, the title changed here, and the title changed, and the URL. That was awesome. Oh, that was very exciting. I think I deserve to be back on the screen now. That was very exciting, except this got ugly. That doesn't make me happy. Why did that get ugly? It got ugly because, I'm in the way again. I can go up there. So this is my input. Why did that go ugly? It went ugly because something here. What's all this? Look at that. This stuff which comes from somewhere. That's a bit of a downside of ES Build and all these things. They just mash it all together and go, best of luck. Figure out where this came from. Maybe it's because of wherever this comes from. Where does all this come from? I didn't do it. That looks at you. Let's just find one of these sort of things and see if we can. So here, what do we got here? It looks like it comes from here. So it looks like it's a Jumpstart Pro helpful thing that for all the normal forms that we want, that they're inputs or text areas, then we add all this stuff. And now that's cool. So either we need to make this go away or not do this. And what's interesting is it looks like it should only match if it's one of these. So what if I just make it not one of those? What are they called? Types. How about type nil? I don't really know what the types are for. That didn't fix anything. What about double equals? Oh yeah, there we go. That's inexcusable that worked. Good. Let's not get too fussy, but I think let's just show what that did. So here are my inputs. So it's input type nothing. And I guess I could have also said, don't worry about me. That's a probably equally valid type because all we're doing, maybe at the cost of something else that I don't know about, is I'm bypassing this. This is pretty cool. A couple of things to fix before we go. One is the cursor. I think this is not wide enough. And the other thing is, I don't think we need this. This comes from Jumpstart Pro, which is a Flash. We have them in every Rails app. Page got refreshed. Something was changed. Let's let the person know. Yes, it changed. Notion doesn't do that. So how about we don't do that either? We won't do it for create either. So refresh that. Delete that. Wait. Updated just works. So press new page. That just works. No need for a flash. Excellent. The other thing is, I've got a cursor that says I can click over here, but it doesn't seem to, like until I get to here-ish that it changes over. So let's make that wider. I'm guessing I need a full width here. There you go. So the cursor is now out here somewhere I can click on. Excellent. And actually leads to a question. How much text can I write here before it overlaps? It didn't overlap. That's terrible. That's terrible news. Oh, that's not what I want. For all that business of using an input, I think I need to have a quick freak out through the medium of using Google search and I'll be right back. Let's relax. Let's all take a break. I've got an idea. Here we have. This is the input, and I brought back the H1 that I discarded half an hour ago. And I think there's a fundamental problem there. Inputs don't want to flow down the page. That's what text areas are for, but then text areas look ugly, and the general solution is to use normal div DOM elements with the content editable that we talked about. Now, problem I mentioned before, which is why we went down this rabbit hole that we're popping our head back up from, was placeholders. I found someone sort of giving a suggestion, which is go back to using content editable, add an attribute that says what the placeholder will be, and then a little bit of CSS to make all that work. So I'm going to just copy and paste this in. In fact, we need the editable class too, just to find it here. So here is my H1. I'm going to put that down there. I'll put this on new lines. We want this to be untitled. Yep. And we need to add an editable there. Now I'll set this up. Styles. I'll just copy this in. We'll just do it in line for the moment, and then we'll move into a style sheet. Okay. What's that give us? All right, so now this is editable. Excellent. And if I delete it, it says untitled. Excellent. It is ugly and looks exactly like this. So let's make that more gray. Color, I don't know. Bit of gray action. Cool. There we go. So that's part one of the problem. We have a way of at least getting a placeholder and having text that overlaps. Now we just need to send it off to the server. And I think we'll stick with the form and submitting it the Rails way. I don't really have a reason not to. I have ideas of why I don't want to do it, but for the moment, I think the form will do us for today in this episode. And but then the question is how we're going to submit it. Well, we already have the form and we already have, the field. So let's just change this to a hidden field. How about we move that in there? Your hidden and all this stuff we can now move back into the H1. So we'll change this. So we're going to repurpose that data action. Repurpose all those things. Don't need you, don't need you. It doesn't have a value. We're going to set the value of this hidden field with JavaScript. Whenever we do the key up and run the change method, it will copy this value into the hidden field and then submit the form. Probably should work. Okay, so here we have this now. That was previously on the field, and now we've got on the H1. I actually have a new idea. Let's move this to the parent, some parent, right? We'll move it to some parent of the two, so that we have, they're all sort of nested in some, it could go anywhere, I guess, but we'll put it here. Now we'll sort of indicate that this element and the form and the input, so this and this are going to be used by our controller. We just need to tell it what they are so it can talk about them. We'll call this the content, and this one target, we'll call this, I don't know, the input. So that way we're going to mount the controller on the parent, and then we'll have these two as inputs. I can never remember any syntax. Static values, no, we don't want that. Static targets, that's what we want. Equal content input. Lovely. And don't need this anymore. And now in here, what we'll do is we'll say, and the element now is some parent. It might be the form, it might not. So how about we just say that we'll go and look for the input target, and we'll just ask for its form, and we'll submit that. So that way it's a little flexible how we use this thing. But now we need to copy the value across. So this input target value, it will be the, fair enough. Thank you, Copilot. Hi there. And if we do a new page, we get untitled, looking fantastic. This has a title, and this title can now overflow Sweet. I'll fix that up and perfect.
So, in summary, what did we do? What didn't we do? And what should we do? Should we have done? We worked on the idea of editable content or content editable. If we click this is not an input. This is a div with content editable on it. And whenever we change this, we have some JavaScript, copies it into a form and submits the form. Why did we submit the form versus using Ajax or a WebSocket? Because it's kind of out of scope of the core problem, which is more of an HTML, CSS issue, which is how do we get an editable element that can grow down the page, and if we stop typing, then it will submit the content in some fashion. So that's what we did. What we didn't do was anything fancy with how we submit it. We didn't do anything collaboratively. Like anyone else that's looking at the same page on the same URL, nothing changes on their site. We didn't do anything with Turbo Stream to push those notifications out to change to everyone else's pages. And we didn't do anything about conflict resolution. What if two people were trying to edit that title at the same time? I mean, they're good topics. And I think what we'll do is the limited subset of things I know about this topic, the fact that I think it's called conflict resolution, we will get to when we talk about the body down here. I think we'll really focus on it there and then look at some of the state of the art that I kind of want to steal rather than do it myself, because I just want to rebuild Notion. I don't want to recreate computer science. And then maybe after we learn that, maybe we'll come back and answer questions about how else we could have done this title. I think we've all done well today. I think we should bit of a pat on the back, bit of a clap. Next episode, I just mentioned what I really want to do next. We're going to rip out all of this static and we're going to make this editable. I want to focus on bringing in an editor called TipTap, which sits on top of another headless editor called Prose Mirror, which sits on top of even more interesting tech. And we will bring this into our Notion and we will make this awesome. So thanks for joining me today. See you for the next episode very soon.